All right, I think we can start. So I hope everyone hears me good this time. Last time we had some complaints that my mic was not working properly. So I hope I hope that the sound is better this time. So welcome everyone to our GoodWe Plus program. This is an installer program that we have for all kind of installers to first off, give you some more knowledge of our products and how to, or what we offer in our portfolio, how to use them, and what to do if anything would go wrong. And also, after you completed this program, you will also receive the GoodWe Plus status or GoodWe Plus installer status, and which gives you additional warranty on grid tie inverters up to 20 kilowatts, sorry. But let's start. So this GoodWe Plus program consists of 3 modules. The first module is about our portfolio and the product that we offer. Second module is about the commissioning of the inverter. This will be on Tuesday next week at the same time. I will try to show it live if I'm in the office then. If not, then we'll go through a presentation and show how it's done. On the third module, then David will present how to do the troubleshooting of the inverter and what you can do if it's not working out as you expected. So to give you a briefing of this GoodWe Plus program, all webinars are hosted via Zoom, and we do recommend that you use a PC. Sometimes when you use a tablet or phone, it generally works well as well also, but sometimes you do not get the questions that pops up. And each module consists then of different chapters and with some questions to it to make sure that you understood everything correctly. And to pass it, you need to have minimum 70% correct answers on each module. So both on the first one, the second one, and the third one. If you have any technical issues and do not see the questions popping up, then we'll also provide you with a Google form in the chat. So just write us if you do not see the questions. And when all modules are done, so when you completed the first one, the second one, and the third one, then about 1 week after, you will then receive an email with the assessment of the program. And in case you need to retake some module to get the GoodWe Plus status, then we will inform you. And also, people often ask for all the slides after these modules, and we'll also send them out after the third module. But then you will have everything. So this is a installer program that we have to qualify installers for GoodWe Plus, but anyone can participate to just get some more knowledge about our products. We do offer hands-on trainings. Usually now with the pandemic, we're having it online, but then in Munich, we also have an office with the lab, and we'll start making some videos and offer you some more trainings in that way. You also get the free automatic warranty extensions. This extends from 5 to 10 years, and it applies to all grid tie inverters up to 20 kilowatt, but only if they are installed within EU, UK, Norway, or Switzerland. And moreover, they also need to be connected to the SEMS portal. It's very important. And I will also go through this SEMS portal a bit later on. Yes, and then also we have additional after sales and warranty benefits. You can check out our website to see all about the warranty support. So this is how it works. So to become a GoodWe Plus member, you need to first set up a company account in the SEMS portal. And this you do via a link that we send you. You can just ask us for that link, and then you can register your account. If you haven't already done it for this module, then please do it until the next module. If you only register as an end user in SEMS on the website itself, you will not get this GoodWe Plus upgrade. When you have this account, you just take part in all 3 GoodWe Plus trainings. Let us know which code you have if you are not using it in this module. And then when you have completed all the trainings and have at least 70% correct answers, then you will automatically be qualified. And sometimes you might not know if you're already a GoodWe Plus installer or not. To do this, there's an easy way to check. You just log in into your installer account in SEMS. You click here on Management after you log in. And then you click on Warranty. And here on the top right corner, you'll see one of these two, either how to get 10 years warranty for free. And that means you're not yet the GoodWe Plus installer. But if it says approved units with 10 years warranty, this means that your account is approved for GoodWe Plus, and all coming installations that you have will then also get this automatic warranty extension. We also have the SEMS app, and if you want to check it there, you do it in a similar way. You log in, you click on warranty. So at the discovery button here, and then you click on warranty, and then on the bottom side of the screen, you will see one of these two, similar to on the SEMS web portal, to know if you're already a GoodWe Plus installer. Okay, so let's start with our portfolio. First, I will give you a short introduction of our company, and then we will go to talk about our residential portfolio, further to our CNI and utility scale, and then going into our energy storage products. And then lastly, I will also mention our monitoring and communication portfolio. And also good to say maybe is that if you have any questions during the webinar, please post them in the Q&A section in Zoom. If you post it in the chat, it's not always easy to see if it's a question for us and if we have answered it or not. So if you post it in the Q&A section, then it's easier for us to keep track of your questions. So GoodWe as a company, GoodWe is a Chinese company with the head office located here in China. Here we have all our factories and R&D centers in Suzhou, and for the EMEA region covering Africa, Europe, and also Middle Eastern part here, we have our head office in Munich in Germany. And yes, and from here we have additional branches within the EMEA region. We have David and Lindeve. They are here in South Africa, and I'm sitting here in Germany. It's also good to mention that our servers for the SEMS portal, they are also located in Germany, and we also have a local warehouse here in Europe, which is in Netherlands. Some awards that GoodWe have gotten. GoodWe was founded in 2010 in China, and since 2000, correct me if I'm wrong, David, 2017, we are also in Europe, so we're quite young. Here you see some awards that we've been getting the last couple of years. This is quite nice to have being one of the top brand for 5 consecutive years in many different markets. Hopefully we'll also get it for 2022 as well. We're also been mentioned as the #1 hybrid storage inverter supplied by Wood Mackenzie, which is very nice for us. Here you see our after-sales service that we offer in different languages and regions. Since this is the international GoodWe Plus, I know that Germany and Spain and Italy and so on, they have their own GoodWe Plus in local language. So most of you joining now probably will use the English support here. So to our first quiz then, and then we will talk about our residential. Okay, then let's continue with our residential portfolio. So as you saw before, on this one, we have a very large portfolio ranging from 700 watt up to 250 kilowatt. And we also do offer storage products and batteries. So for our residential portfolio, for string inverters, we divide it into residential, CNI, and utility scale. So for residential, we mostly talk about 0.7 up to 15 kilowatt. And the different inverters we have for this segment is mainly the XS, the DNS, and the STT-G2. The XS and the DNS are both single-phase inverters, and the STT-G2 is our three-phase residential inverter. The difference between XS and DNS is mainly the size and also the amount of MPPTs. The XS offer 1 MPPT, while the DNS has 2 MPPTs, and also has a bit larger size, between 3 to 6 kilowatt. However, all of our residential portfolio up to 6 kilowatt are fanless, so they're cooled by natural convection. So that means they're very quiet. Soon we'll also have the STT-G2 series up to 10 kilowatt, which we also will then be cooled by natural convection and without a fan. Moreover, we also offer Wi-Fi and RS485 and LAN modules and 4G to our whole portfolio. And all of them also have the IP65 protection degree, which makes them possible to install both inside and outside. Something that's very nice for our DNS and XS inverters is that they have a built-in export limit function. So that means you can buy additional CTs and connect the CTs directly to the inverter. For our STT-G2 inverter, it works in a similar way. It also has this export limit function built in, but instead you need to have a smart meter here in between. And then from the smart meter, you connect it to the inverter, and then also CTs to the smart meter. But it works in a similar way. As I said before, we have a fanless design. So here you see the cooling fins on the back side, which makes them very quiet. If we look at our XS inverter, I think one of the main benefits is it's quite large AC output compared to its size. It's very lightweight and small. You can actually take it in your backpack. That's the size of an A4 paper. So it's a very small inverter for small residential installations, but even up to 3 kilowatt, it has all the same size in this range. Also offers a very high yield. It has efficiency up to 97.6 and also offers 10% extra AC overloading. It means that the 3 kilowatt inverter actually has a max capacity of 3.3 kilowatt. You can also oversize it up to 30%, and soon we will also increase this. The body is of die-cast aluminum, so it's very robust, has an IP65 rating, and the temperature range is between -30 up to 60 degrees. So it's no plastic cover or such. It's very, very solid and thick, but even though it's quite lightweight. Here you see the size comparisons to some other inverters on the market. So all of them here are 3 kilowatt inverters. And as you see, our XS is very small and also the lightest on the market. If we go to our DNS inverter, it's sort of like a double XS, comes in the double size, is or double AC output, also the double size, and has 2 MPPTs. The DNS has a quite wide voltage range, so it has a very low startup voltage at 80 volt. This means that it can start producing energy quite early in the day and also stop producing it quite late in the evening, so giving you that little extra energy yield in mornings and evenings. Apart from that, it's quite similar to the XS that we just talked about. And going forward, we have our 3-phase inverter. This is the SCT-G2. This actually range from 4 up to 25 kilowatt. For the residential, we say it goes up to 15, but then we have the SCT-G2 from 17 up to 25 as well. It's always a 3-phase, or this is a 3-phase inverter, and it comes with 2 MPPTs. The string amounts depends a bit on the inverter. Also has a very wide voltage range. Since this is a 3-phase inverter, it has a higher input voltage. The lower range has 1000 volt, but then the higher you go in the series, then you also get the 1100 maximum input voltage. And as I said before, it has fanless cooling up to 6 kilowatt, and from 8 kilowatt, it's fan cooled. The IP rating is also 65 on this one, so you can also install it outside and inside. And the temperature range is between -30, so very cold, up to 60 degrees. And this is ambient temperature. So it's very robust and reliable. Here you see the bottom side of it. So as you see, there's no removable panels or something like that during the commission. You just hang it on the wall. So you install it on the wall, and then on the bottom side, you have all the inputs. Here you see the string inputs, the DC switch, the connection for Wi-Fi or LAN, and here's some other communication ports, and as well as the AC output. All of the series has 2 MPPTs, but depending on which size of the inverter, you will have different amount of string inputs. So here you see that the lower up to 10 kilowatt, you only have 2 string inputs, 1 per MPPT, and then the higher you go, you have up to 5 string inputs divided on the both MPPTs. The SCT-G2 can also be ordered with or without display. If you have a display, you can configure and commission the inverter on the display. If not, you have some additional LED lights to indicate what's happening, and then you can commission it with the Solar Go app. And I would actually recommend that even if you have it with the screen, that you commission it with the Solar Go app. It goes a bit quicker and is easier, and you have much more options. Here you see some communication devices for our residential portfolio. So as you see, it depends a bit on how many inverters you're using and if it's single phase or 3-phase. But if you have multiple units, usually 3-phase then, you can connect it to an EC Logger Pro. This is one of our data loggers, and you connect it then with RS485 in daisy chain to this logger, and then to this logger you can connect for example, a smart meter to monitor or to limit the export power. And then this one can be connected to some internet connection. If you have single units, you have a wide range of internet communication for the inverter to communicate directly to our server. You can either use Wi-Fi, LAN, 4G, or Bluetooth for the setup. And in case you want to have some load monitoring, we offer both the HomeKit 1000 for single-phase inverters and HomeKit 3000 for 3-phase inverters. And with this one, you can both monitor the loads, and you can also limit the power export. If you do not care about monitoring the loads and just want to make sure that you do not export any excess power to the grid, then you can use this smart meter. Also, few different versions depending on if it's a single phase or three-phase inverter. For the XS and the DNS, you can also use the CT90s directly to connect it directly to the inverter and to not need to use the smart meter. And also to mention about these additional devices, they're all automatically set up, so you don't need to configure anything on the meter if you decide to use them. You just connect it to the inverter and then it's ready to go. So no additional configuration on these. So to summarize the residential portfolio, they have a high efficiency, which give you more power and less heat. You have a flexible design with multiple MPPT, both for single phase and three phase. You have this export control. So either you connect then the CTs or the smart meter. They're also very lightweight and compact, which makes them easy to transport and also very easy to install. They all work at up to 60 degrees Celsius and have an IP65 protection. So you can install them both inside and outside, and you have a quiet operation with fanless design up to 6 kilowatt. And then all of our products, this SEMS that is free, this is not only for the residential, but also for our whole portfolio. So let's have some questions about our residential portfolio, and then after that we'll continue talking about our CNI and utility scale inverters. First question, from which power class is the STT-G2 fan cooled? I think I mentioned this a couple of times. The second is, how many MPPTs does the GoodWe DNS inverter have? Maybe it can also be figured out from the name. The name is, the D actually stands for dual, and the NS is one of our old inverters, which this was an upgrade from. Size of the XS, we also looked at the size, and then what is the minimum operating temperature for an STT-G2? And this was actually the same for all of our inverters. So if you know it for one of them, you should know it for also the STT-G2. Okay, I think most people have answered. And if you don't have time to answer all questions, then you also have the Google form in the chat. So let's continue with our CNI and utility portfolio. Looking at our CNI, we look from 17 up to 136 kilowatts, so quite a wide range. We also have a few different inverters here. I will try to make it maybe easy. I know that the names can be a bit confusing with the SDT, the SMT, the MT, and HD, and the names are maybe not always sticking. But the STT-G2, you might remember from the residential series, it just extends up to 25 kilowatt. And the MT here is maybe the mid-range of our CNI portfolio. And the SMT, you can see it as a small MT. So the S is for small. And the HT series is the high power, biggest inverter we have. And this is also the same series that we use for our utility segment. So the main difference maybe between them is the AC output power, of course, and the number of MPPTs. As you see, the STT-G2 here, it goes up to 25 kilowatt, and exactly as the residential portfolio, it has 2 MPPTs. However, now you see that it goes up to 1,100 volt instead. Otherwise, it's same as the residential inverters. The SMT takes over from the STT-G2 and goes up to 36 kilowatt. this has then one additional MPPT, but otherwise the specifications are quite similar to all of them. If you look at the MT inverter here, you go between 50 up to 80 and add another MPPT to it. And then finally the HT inverter, here you have the final range of our CNI portfolio, and here you have very many MPPTs. So between 10 up to 12 different MPPTs, depending on which model. Something to mention here is you also see this PID recovery here, which is optional. This function is for our CNI range for the SMT up to the HT. And then we also have the AFCI, which is a safety feature for our whole CNI range. I will go into that a bit further. Then after that, you see the utility range. These are at the moment only 2 inverters. We'll get 2 additional ones, which will be variations of these 2. However, this is the same inverter as this one, the big CNI inverter, but the power is much higher. So, and the difference here is that here you have 250 kilowatt, but also the AC output voltage is much higher. Apart from that, it's quite similar. It's slightly bigger, but the difference is not so much. And also the max DC input voltage is 1,500. For our CNI range, we have quite many MPPTs, and this is quite good instead of having, for example, central inverter or something like that. With more MPPTs, you can optimize your system better, and you reduce the amount of hotspots that limits the system. You can have more tilts and angles, and in case of something would damage or hinder the modules from producing energy, then the weakest point will then limit the whole system. But if you have additional MPPTs, then only that MPPT array will be limited, and the rest will still be optimized independently. So if the panels are shuttered, you have dirt on them, you have some shade, or you just have module mismatch, which can happen, then additional MPPTs will increase your yield. If you look at the size of our inverters, and also in the CNI range, we have quite small inverters. Here we have an 80 kilowatt inverter. This is our MT inverter, and it's between 60 up to 65 kilos. If you look at competitors, then to have the same weight and maybe volume, you have a much lower output power. And if you compare then the output power, you see that this would be then similar to our SMT inverter, and then this is significantly lighter and also smaller. For our CNI range, we offer also additional AC power. This means it's called AC overloading in some presentations. Basically, it means that the nominal or rated power of the inverter is maybe say 100 kilowatt, but then the maximum output power is 10% additionally. So if you have an array that's a bit oversized, then if you then would have another inverter brand, maybe sized to 1 megawatt, this is quite a high oversize, but then this one would then of course cap it to 1 megawatt, but ours would then be able to output 1.1 megawatt instead. Moreover, we have a PID recovery board integrated into the inverter. Sometimes, or PID, first I can explain what it means. This is potentially induced degradation of the PV modules, and means that during time the modules will degrade basically. But to avoid this, you can install a anti-PID box, which then will reduce this phenomenon and increase the yield overall. But then this additional box means additional installation cost, not only for the material, but also for the work done. In our inverters, it's integrated and can also be retrofitted on field for our SMT and MT inverter. And what it does is that during nighttime, it puts a reverse voltage that sort of repairs the damage that has then been done during the daytime. Our CNI range also have a very high temperature adaptability, which means that they can operate at very high temperatures. Many other inverter brands, they also have a high operating temperature, but then the derating goes very quickly. So if we compare, for example, here we have the red line, which is a GoodWe inverter, and the blue line is one of our competitors. You see that they start derating at an earlier level. And we also have this 10% additional output power. So up to 45 degrees for the whole CNI portfolio and up to 50 degrees for our MT inverters, we can have full power. And then you see that the derating slowly goes down until 60 degrees where it stops. But this gives additional capacity when in hot areas. Here you see the different communication devices for our CNI inverters. Something you might recognize here is the internet communication, which is similar for our CNI range as for our residential range. So here we also offer all kinds of different internet communication. In case you have multiple units, you can connect them with RS485 in daisy chain. And here we have a little bigger box where you can connect them to and then connect it to the internet. It's also possible to monitor the inverters over the AC line, so over power line communication. And then the box looks the same, but it has a different name. So instead of SCC 1000, it's an SCB 3000 or 2000, depending which inverter series you have. For our CNI portfolio, it's also possible to have load monitoring and power export control. For this, you need to have the SCC 1000, and then you need to communicate over RS485, as you see here. And to this box, you can buy any third-party CTs and connect it directly to this. Yes, also good to mention that to one of these boxes, so as you see here, you can connect up to 60 inverters to one single device. So it has 3 ports with up to 20 inverters per port. So usually one box should cover the whole installation. To summarize it, high efficiency, robust design, the same as for our residential portfolio. You also have a very high or full power operation up to high degrees, up to 50 degrees for the MT series and 45 for the rest of the CNI portfolio. You have this 10% extra AC power, and you also have IP65 rating of all of our CNI portfolio. The HD series even has IP66. And then you have different communication options, so internet, RS485, PLC, and so on. And then also the SEMS here. So let's have a few questions on this, and then we will talk about our storage portfolio. So our storage products mainly consist of hybrid inverters between 3 up to 10 kilowatt and AC coupled inverters. AC coupled inverters are basically battery inverters. So you connect them on the AC side and they have no PV input and only charge and discharge from the AC side. And they can be retrofitted to existing PV installations. If you already have an installation without any storage, then you can add this to get some battery capacity. Then we also have our battery storages, and here we have batteries, low voltage and high voltage, and also all-in-one solution. So this is the tower you see here. So here you have the inverter on the top, all the connections here and DC switches, and then you have the racks here for the battery. But let's go on and talk firstly about our hybrid inverters. This might look a bit confusing. Here we have very many inverters. Again, something you might recognize here to know if it's or which type of inverter it is. If you see an E, it means that it's a hybrid inverter. So E stands for hybrid in probably some language. And you can divide it actually. This one here is a bit one of its own. This is an all-in-one solution. It actually consists of an ES inverter, one of these. I'm not sure if you see my pen. So it consists of one ES inverter, and then it's a all-in-one solution with the battery. And this comes with only as one solution, as a 5 kilowatt solution, and then you have 9.6 kilowatt hours of battery capacity. And apart from that, we can divide it in these two. And these are single phase inverters that only works with low voltage batteries. They're quite similar. They are between 3 to 5 kilowatts. They both or come with a two MPPTs. This EM inverter also comes with 1 MPPT and is a bit smaller. But otherwise, they're quite similar. They're also all cool without a fan, so all quiet. And then if we go here and look at the right side, we see the EH and the ET inverter. The ET inverter here is also a single phase inverter, but works with high voltage batteries instead. And all the way to the right side, you have the 3-phase inverter. This is our only 3-phase hybrid inverter. So if you're interested in 3-phase only, then the hybrid portfolio becomes way more easy to understand since you only have one inverter. This ranges from 5 to 10 kilowatt, only works with high voltage batteries, and it's also possible to connect them in parallel with the help of a communication box, and then you can connect up to 10 of them in parallel. So you can potentially have up to 100 kilowatt of hybrid solution or hybrid storage system. Something to mention is that none of our storage products comes with a display. They are all display free, and instead they have some LED lights on the front side, and you commission them with our app called PV Master, and it guides you through the whole installation step, so it's quite easy to install. If we look at the AC coupled inverters, these are our battery inverters basically, and here you can recognize maybe the B in the name, so all of them has a B, and also here it's quite similar that the first one, let me have laser. The first one here is, or both of these are single phase inverters. The first one only works with low voltage batteries, similar to our EM inverter, and this one works with high voltage batteries, similar to our EH. And here on the right side, you have the 3-phase inverters. This is the only one for residential applications, so the BT, similar to the ET. They are actually very similar, all of these inverters, to the corresponding hybrid inverter. So they have the same functionality, just that you don't have the PV input. Then we also this year will get a new one, or we have it now. We're doing some beta tests, and then it will be ready. This is a big battery inverter for storage applications, or for CNI applications. And we will also get a ETC version, which will be the hybrid version of the same. So as you see here, it has up to 50 kilowatt of battery power, or then in the hybrid case, also 50 kilowatt up to PV power. To summarize the main points of our storage portfolio is that they also have a high temperature range, not -30 as our grid tie inverters, but from -25 up to 60 degrees. Also here you see a full load operation at 45 degrees Celsius. And most of them, there are a few exemptions, has a IP65 rating. The exemptions are, for example, the ESA here, which has a slightly lower IP rating. They also can operate up to 4,000 meters, which is not always very necessary, but it shows on very high quality components, because on higher altitude you have more conductive, or the air is more conductive, and then you need to have, or there's more, you need to have higher quality components for it to work. And then you also have fanless cooling of all of our residential storage applications. So the exemption is then the BTC here, which is for CNI. Something very good with our storage portfolio is that you get everything in the package. So when you order one of our storage products, you will have everything you need in there. You don't need to buy any additional accessories. You will get all you need for the installation. You will get the smart meter for load monitoring and export control. You will also get the corresponding Wi-Fi module. And now you also, in the newer packages, you also get a Bluetooth stick, so you can update the inverter to the latest firmware. Also, if you see here on the inverter that they come pre-wired, so there's already wires connected to the for the battery and also for the smart meters. And this one goes then to for the BMS for the battery, and this one you just stick into the smart meter. Here you can see a short overview of the hybrid concept. So basically you have a inverter here connected with PV modules and then to the grid. This is the same as a grid tie inverter, and here you also have the loads. In addition to this, a hybrid inverter has a connection to the battery here, and our inverters also have a second AC output. This means that you can connect your loads into different ways. You can have one AC output here where you connect some important loads, and also the normal AC output going to the grid, and then you connect the normal loads there. And this backup function is very quick. It's automatically switches. If the grid would fail, then this backup function would automatically switch over to keep on supplying these loads as long as you have power from the battery or PV. So I thought I had one additional slide, but basically what happens is if this goes out, the grid is out, then all of this will also stop working, but then the backup loads here and also this will keep on running. However, there are some limitations to these backup loads. I will go into that in more detail later on. Here you see the different applications. So you can either install a new hybrid installation, so with PV and battery, or you just want a battery. So for example, if you, in some areas, you might have high electricity prices and you want to charge the battery to reduce the prices during the day. This is only allowed in some countries, I think. In some countries, there are some regulations against that, but it's still possible to do. You can also, if you have an already existing hybrid or existing PV installation, you can add a hybrid or a battery only to extend your installation with either only a battery to get the storage system or with additional PV. Here you see how the energy flows from either the PV or how the loads receives energy. There are different ways to set this up. You have different settings in the commissioning app, but during the general settings, the PV or the inverter always tries to prioritize that the energy from the PV first goes to the loads to cover them. And if there's any energy over, then it charges the battery. And if the loads are covered and the battery is full, then you export the rest to the grid in case you don't have a export limit set up, and then it will just reduce the PV power. And from the loads, it will always try to first take it from the PV and then the battery. And then lastly, the grid. But there are also different ways to set it up. So you can force charge the battery or force discharge the battery during specific time of use. So you can set up to charge the battery during maybe 2 in the night and 6 in the morning. And then between 7 in the morning and 10, you discharge the battery. Here you see a bit more about the integrated backup function. Here you see how it's wired, but basically what happens is that if the grid goes out, you keep getting power to your backup loads. And this switch time is under 10 milliseconds. So it's very quick, you won't notice it. It's also integrated, so you don't need any additional box or anything. You have 2 AC outputs. For the 3-phase, then you have 2 3-phase AC outputs. And it's also important to mention that the backup output is usually, it's the same as the inverter capacity that you can install on the backup output, and not anymore. For the 3-phase inverter, it's 1/3 per phase. So if you have a 10 kilowatt ET inverter and want to add some loads on the backup side to always be running, even if the grid is out, the maximum loads you can add is then 3.3 kilowatt per phase. If you exceed this amount, then the inverter will try to power the loads but fail, and then will pause its operation for a certain amount of time and then try again. And after it has tried a couple of times, it will then stop trying and you need to reset the inverter. So this means that the inverter is not then off-grid inverter in any way. It's an on-grid inverter, but it supports backup. So you can have some loads as long as they're smaller than 1/3 of the nominal power on the backup side. And no inductive loads or loads with high inrush current. If you have any pumps or AC conditions or such, then they should not be connected on the backup loads. Something that's also good is that our ET series also supports unbalanced output. So it means that it can output different amount of energy on the different phases. So if you have then a export limit control scheme, then you can have different amount of output to support the loads before it's exports. Yes, and here, let's see if I said everything here. Also here for the battery and for the storage settings on your device, you can set different, there are many settings on the app, but one of the settings is, for example, that you can set how much of the battery you want to use for normal operation and how much you want to save in case you have a grid outage. So in case you live in areas where you have a lot of grid outages and they can last for a longer time, then it might be good to increase this blue stuff here so that you have more battery power reserved in case the grid goes out. Also for the batteries compatible with our inverters, we are compatible with most brands, but not compatible with all batteries on the market. So to make sure that the battery you want to use is compatible with our inverters, please check on our website. There we have this approved battery option statement. which is a list of all approved battery and which battery works with which inverter. And please do only use batteries on this list. Otherwise, we cannot guarantee that it works. Also here you see the parallel connection of either the ET or the BT series. So then you need this box here, SEC 1000S for hybrid. And to this, you can then connect up to 10 inverters and have up to 100 kilowatt of AC power. And then each inverter will then have its own battery and its own PV and its own backup port. So in case the grid goes out, then each inverter works as an isolated system. But when the grid is on, then this box makes sure that these inverters work properly and coordinate the power production from the PV and the battery. Here's an example of such an installation. So here you have this box, and here you have then 6 ET inverters with, I think, BYD batteries here underneath. To have then, this could be, if these are 10 kilowatt, then up to 60 kilowatt storage installation. So, and let's summarize our storage inverters, and then I will quickly mention our different batteries we have. One of the most important functions is the advanced backup functions that within 10 milliseconds can switch to disconnect from the grid to switch on the backup output. Also compatible with either PV or batteries. You can choose if you want to have a battery only installation or a combined hybrid installation. Everything is built into the inverter, and you also get everything in the box. So the export control and the load monitoring and all components that you need, they are all in the package when you receive it. They're also very lightweight and compact, which makes the installation very, very easy. And all up to 10 kilowatt. So the only exemption is the CNI inverter. They all are fanless, so they are very quiet to have in any residential application. Yes. So quickly about our batteries, we have 2 different batteries that we just released. This one came late last year, and this one is already here. Actually, we have some shipment already coming from China at the moment. So this is the low voltage battery, and this is the high voltage battery. This one goes up to 16 kilowatt hours in one tower. And later on, you will also be able to connect them in parallel so that you can connect a second tower here and have increased capacity of your storage system. And then for the low voltage systems, these only work with single phase inverters. They are between 5 up to 32 kilowatt hours. And something to mention about our batteries, this also is for our high voltage batteries, so the Lynx Home F, is that we use the lithium iron phosphate technology, which is a very safe technology. We also have prismatic cells, which is even safer. So very safe and reliable battery. You can either install these on the floor or you can mount them on the wall. For the Lynx Home F, it's a tower solution, and that will only be on the floor. We also have a high IP rating, so you can install them outside as well. However, if you live in a cold area, then it might be difficult to use them in the winter because they cannot charge under 0 degrees. No batteries should charge under 0 degrees. So in case you live in a cold country, I would recommend to install them inside. The Lynx Home F, they're quite nice. They're very slim, so only 18 centimeters in depth. So this length here. And all compatible with all single phase inverters or the lower range of them. And we also, this is, sorry for this is actually 10 years product warranty and 10 years performance warranty. The performance warranty says that after 10 years, you should have 70% of the initial capacity. Here is how many you can connect of the Lynx Home U. So you can connect between 2 up to 6 in parallel, or between 1 and 6. And each one of these stacks, it includes both the battery here and then the BMU on top. And each of them has 4.8 usable or kilowatt hours of usable energy. I think that's the main points. So let's have one of our last quiz, and then I will just quickly go through our monitoring and communication devices. So the first question is, what is the easiest way to know which battery is compatible with your GoodWe inverter? This I mentioned, and it's really important to make sure that the battery is compatible. Otherwise, we cannot guarantee that it will work. Also, what is included in the inverters, as I said, we include everything you need in the inverter. And the third question asking about the switching time of the GoodWe backup function, and this is a UPS level switching time. Maybe that gives you a clue. And also the maximum backup load capacity on a ET 10 kilowatt inverter is good to know. This is 1/3 per phase of the nominal capacity. So we'll give you 1 more minute to answer the questions, and then we'll continue with our last chapter about the monitoring and our communication devices. So our monitoring portfolio is called SEMS Portal. We'll also go through this a bit more during our next session to show you how to set up a plant in the SEMS Portal. And I think David will also show you a bit how to use SEMS Portal to troubleshoot. I'll just quickly show you how it works. We have a web version and one app version. In the web version, where actually both versions has a demo version that you can click. In the web browser, on the upper right corner, you have it's called SEMS demo version. You can click there, and in here we have 3 real plants added that you can play around and see how the platform looks like. In the top right left corner here, you have some overviews. So you can see which plants are working, green, which are offline, black, or some kind of fault, red or orange. Here you can see the production overview, so to say, and then underneath you have a list of all your installations, all your plants. If you click on one of the plants, you will get to the specific plant page, and here you have firstly an overview of this specific plant, some accumulated data. Here you see the latest measured power, and if it's a storage system, you also see the charge of the battery, some overview and weather forecasts, and if you want to add a picture, it's also possible. In this graph here, you have a combined graph of the whole system. And here you can click here to see the total generation of a specific month or a specific week or year. Here you can also show the graph, a line graph for specific dates. And then you can click on the different lines here to, if you don't want to see the battery, for example, but here you can see the PV generation, the battery, power output, the export and import, the load, and also the battery state of charge. On the bottom side here, you have an overview with all your devices connected. So in case one question was, for example, if you want to connect both MT and the ETs to the same plant, when you connect it to SEMS, then you will have here, for example, MT inverter 1, MT inverter 2, and then ET inverter. You can click on them to get more detailed data of that specific inverter. And so here you have some specific information of the inverter. So the model, the serial number, yeah, also some DC voltage and current, and also AC voltage and current. If you click here on curve, you will also get a more detailed graph of that specific inverter. It will look like either like this, the upper side, or like this. So here you can click on this drop-down menu, and you see here what you can select. It's a wide range of different stuff. You can have the string voltage, string current. You can have here the Wi-Fi, strength, total generation, temperature, etc. And you can also choose here to show it on a specific day. And this is quite a good tool for installers to use if you have installed an installation, to remotely troubleshoot the plant. So your customer is calling you saying, okay, this is not really working, I don't know what to do. Then you can go into SEMS and check, and maybe you can pinpoint the problem to one specific MPPT not working, or the Wi-Fi is too bad, or something like that. It's also possible to integrate weather stations into SEMS, and then you do it with one of our data loggers, and this is how it will look like. Then here you will have then either to click on your inverter, or you can click on environment, and then you get the environment data. This is the data that you can have displayed in our SEMS portal. So it's mainly the basic things of a weather station that you would have. Some other good features are in the SEMS portal that you can have alarms. So in case something happens, you can both log in and see it. You can also choose an option so that you get emails in case of something happens. And then if a customer's plant is not working anymore, you might know it before the customer. It's also possible to export all the data to Excel, and then you can work with it there or export it to some other program. You can also manage several different organization accounts. So if you are a main installer but have many sub-installers and you want to distribute specific installations to these installers, then it's also possible to do it. And it's also possible to get this kind of lobby overview that some mainly companies want to have on a big screen in the lobby, so you can see the total generation and so on. Quickly about our communication devices. So here you see the different communication devices for single inverters. So if you only would want to install one inverter, basically, if we're talking grid tie inverters, all these devices are for the export limitation function. So if you want to limit the export, then you use these. However, if you have a storage product, then these smart meters here, they come in the package, and for the storage products, they can also monitor the load. In case you have a grid tie inverter and a single one, and you want to both limit the export, the power exported, and also monitor the loads, then you use something called HomeKit 1000. And this one also works for 3-phase inverters or one single-phase inverters. There are 2 different models, and this one does it all, but for only one inverter. If you have multiple inverters, you need to use one of our data loggers to aggregate all the inverters before you limit the power exported or check the load or do a mass storage update or something like that. And then you can either have the EC Logger Pro here, This can only monitor the inverters, so aggregate all the data and send it to our SENS portal. You can also update the firmware of all inverters simultaneously with this one. If you also require export limitation function or load monitoring, then you need to have the SEC 1000. This is the only box that can do export limitation and load monitoring for multiple inverters. And then we also have some other inverters here, or no, not inverters, sorry, communication boxes, but these are for power line communication only. And this one, which box you will need for power line communication, you can ask us. They work with a bit different inverter models. This one is mainly for the MT inverter, and this one is for the SMT and the HT. And I know that I mentioned it before, but also for the EasyLogger Pro or the SEC 1000, you can connect up to 60 inverters to one of them, either this one or this one. I wish you a nice day and see you in the second module. Bye-bye.